the bad trip is said to be therapeutic as well.
Okay.
So it's not like it's bad to have bad trips. Right now, at this point, the clinical consensus on it, even if you're having a bad trip, it's good for you.
Okay. Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because one thing that seems to happen under psychedelics is we have more of an access to the subconscious thoughts, emotions, whatever is kind of suppressed, and it doesn't really make its way for us to process with our conscious mind regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so because it activates all that, like different parts of the brain, it also allows to stuff to come up. You know, it can be like difficult emotional memories that you may have, or the big fears that you may be normally able to suppress and control and keep it under the lid. They may show up under a trip. And if they show up, sometimes this thing is, it's good because you're facing your demons. And when you're facing your demons, you have a very flexible way of responding to it. Okay, let me talk more about this thing.
Yeah.
To rewire an emotional memory, if you, let's say you have an emotional memory that is stored, an emotional memory is different than autobiographical memory. It doesn't necessarily have to have the memory that you remember, oh, that day this happened. Yeah. But when something happens and there's a, like, let's say negative emotions associated with it, sometimes we just store that. And we don't necessarily have something that goes with it, right? And they are stored in our emotional memory centers. And if we want to change them, right, if we want to get rid of them, we cannot do it unless we activated those neurons. So to rewire it, first you have to trigger it, activate them. Does it make sense?
Yeah, just so that I understand I understand why other parts were triggering, but just go back to, we are triggering other parts of it because some parts are, because we're no longer rushing blood to our default mode. That's correct?
Yeah, default mode is, okay, think about default mode as a regulator, like an official that really like puts the rules, everybody is going to do that. It's a centralized system.
Yeah.
When we take the psychedelic, all of a sudden the regulator is down. It's like a chaos, it seems like, right? That parts of the brain does whatever they want to do, almost. It becomes decentralized. And we don't know, like there's a lot of things happening in the brain. We see it, we don't understand completely what's going on, but we just know that it seems like different parts of the brain is getting active, doing something, right? When we go back to like difficult emotions, like in a bad trip, you're dealing with, you know, mostly negative emotions. It can be intense sadness, it can be intense fear, right? And there's usually imagery that goes with it. There may be a story that goes with it, like a dreamlike state. For example, one time I had, like everything was black, and then I had this giant snake, like Voldemort and Harry Potter, and like a cobra, and it's standing like that. It's giant, and like we're face to face, and there's this fires everywhere. It's a very strong imagery, right? And like you're face to face with this giant thing and can talk telepathically. And that's why, like, in that second, I was like, oh, this is Voldemort, like kind of a thing, right? Jeez. And so there's this imagery that comes with like this world, everything is fire, so much suffering, and then this snake comes in and looks at me in the face. So I'll take that imagery that my brain created to process some emotion. There's something that sees the world, you know, some part of me looks at the world and the suffering in the world, that things may be wrong in the world. And then there is this snake that signifies that looks at me, right? It gives an image to it, basically. But this gives me an opportunity now, like, because that, in those emotional memories or whatever is leading to these imagery is activated. I have the chance to rewire it, to create a different relationship with it, right? And that's what which happened in that, instance, where I looked at it and I decided to say, hey, rather than being afraid of that snake. And all of a sudden, hey, like, how are you? Or something like that. And all of a sudden, all the darkness disappeared. And now it was snake, bright daylight. It was like a conversation with this giant snake, and snake was not a threat anymore, right? So my brain probably rewired a fear that I have.